All right, let's talk about something that happens in almost every kitchen every single day. We're going to dive into some really crucial information today, especially if you're over 60, about 5 very common foods and a hidden danger that can pop up when we reheat them. So let me ask you this. Could a simple habit, something you do to save time and money, actually be setting the stage for one of the deadliest forms of cancer? I know it sounds a little extreme, but we're talking about reheating leftovers. And what's really happening inside some of these foods when we nuke them or throw them back in a pan? Well, it's something most of us have never been told. So before we even get to the food list, we have to talk about the pancreas itself. Think of it as this quiet, humble workhorse of an organ. It's just doing its job behind the scenes. And that's exactly why we need to have this conversation, because it doesn't give you any warning signs. It doesn't scream in pain when it's getting damaged. And that's the scary part, right? This isn't like a sprained ankle or a headache you can feel right away. The damage builds up silently over years. So by the time you start feeling that little ache or that weird fatigue after eating, it's often because the cancer has already advanced. Look at that number, 12%. That's it. That's the 5-year survival rate. It's one of the absolute lowest for any cancer, precisely because it's caught so late. This means prevention, knowing what to avoid, is literally our best and only defense. Okay, so let's jump into our first food, and this is a big one. You know those leftover fries or that crispy fried chicken? What's the first thing you do? You toss it in a pan, maybe with a little more oil, to get that crunch back. But right there, in that moment, you could be kicking off a chemical reaction that your pancreas just wasn't built to handle. The word you need to know here is aldehydes. When you reheat those common cooking oils, we're talking sunflower, corn, soybean oil, they start to break down and release these toxic compounds. Imagine them as tiny little chemical sparks that fly off and start damaging your cells. And look, this isn't about that one time you reheated some onion rings. It's about the habit. If you're doing this week after week, your body is in a constant state of low-grade inflammation. It's basically forcing your pancreas to operate inside a chemical war zone. And that's a battle it's just not going to win over the long haul. So what do? The fix is actually really simple. First rule, and this is non-negotiable, never ever add more oil to reheat fried food. Use dry heat. An oven or an air fryer is perfect. They bring back the crisp without creating those nasty aldehydes. And please, remember, frying oil is a one-and-done deal. Use it once, get rid of it. All right, this next one is gonna sound a bit crazy because we're talking about a superfood. You know, leafy greens like spinach or kale. You make a big, healthy batch of sautéed spinach, pack the leftovers for lunch, but when you reheat it the next day, something has changed on a chemical level. The key word here is nitrosamines. See, fresh greens have nitrates, which are totally fine. But after you cook them and they sit around, bacteria can turn those nitrates into something called nitrates. And when you heat them up a second time, those nitrates can turn into nitrosamines, which are compounds that researchers have linked to cancer because they can literally damage the DNA inside your cells. And the fix for this one? It's probably the easiest of all. Just eat your leftover cooked greens cold. Toss them into a salad, mix them into a wrap. You get all the good stuff with none of the risk. Or, just get in the habit of cooking only as much as you're going to eat in one sitting. Now for food number 3. And honestly, this might be the most important one on the list because it's so common and the danger is completely invisible. We're talking about leftover rice, a staple for billions of people. Okay, so here's the deal. Raw rice often has spores of a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. These things are tough. Boiling water doesn't kill them. When the rice cools down and sits at room temperature, these spores can wake up, multiply, and start producing a toxin. Now here is the kicker. Reheating the rice will kill the bacteria, but it does not destroy the toxin they've already made. So why should your pancreas care about a toxin in your gut? Because there's basically a direct telephone line between your gut and your pancreas, called the gut-pancreas axis. When your gut is inflamed, it's constantly sending out these distress signals, putting your pancreas on high alert and under chronic stress. The solution for rice is all about one thing: speed. You've got to cool it down fast, within an hour. A great tip is to spread it out on a baking sheet to cool quicker before you put it in the fridge. Eat it within a day, and once you reheat it, that's it. It's one and done. Don't ever put it back in the fridge again. All right, let's move on to poultry. Chicken, turkey, so many of us eat it every week.
The risk here actually comes from our favorite kitchen shortcut, the microwave. You know how it goes. You heat up some chicken, the outside is piping hot, but the inside, well, that's where the problem is.
You see, microwaves are notorious for heating unevenly. They create these cold spots, and those spots can be the absolute perfect breeding ground for nasty bacteria like salmonella. So even if you're not getting full-blown food poisoning, these repeated low-dose exposures can trigger that same chronic inflammation we've been talking about, putting stress on your pancreas over and over.
The simple fix is to ditch the microwave for chicken. Use an oven instead. Cover it with foil to trap the moisture and let it heat through evenly. No cold spots, no problem. But you know what's even safer? Just eat it cold. Shred it up for a salad or a chicken sandwich. It's delicious and there's literally zero risk. And that brings us to our fifth and final food. This one is pretty unique because reheating it launches a two-front attack on your pancreas. We're talking about the humble potato. You know, those leftover roasties from last night's dinner? Okay, so here's the first attack. When a cooked potato cools down, it develops something amazing called resistant starch. This stuff is fantastic for you. It doesn't spike your blood sugar and it feeds your good gut bacteria. But the second you reheat that potato, you destroy that resistant starch. It turns right back into regular starch, causing a huge blood sugar spike that forces your pancreas to pump out insulin in a panic. The second attack is chemical. We've all heard about acrylamide, right? It's a compound that can form when you cook starchy foods at high temperatures. Well, guess what? Studies suggest that when you reheat a potato, the conditions can be even more perfect for creating acrylamide than when you cooked it the first time. So what's the best way to handle leftover potatoes? Go cold. Embrace the potato salad. It preserves all that good-for-you resistant starch. If you absolutely have to warm them, just do it gently, on low heat. And whatever you do, never ever refry a potato. Okay, we just went through a lot, and I know it can feel a little overwhelming, maybe even scary. But listen, this is not about fear. Fear doesn't help anyone. This is about knowledge. It's about giving you the power to make safer choices for yourself and the people you love, starting with your very next meal.
So let's just recap these new kitchen rules. For fried food, dry heat only. Leafy greens, eat them cold or cook fresh. Rice, cool it down fast. Poultry, use the oven or just eat it cold. And potatoes, cold is best or warm them up gently. These are simple, tiny changes that could make a world of difference for your long-term health. If you found this useful today, please think of just one person who needs to hear this and share it. It might just be the most important kitchen tip they ever get.